The threat of wildfire is a fact of life in San Diego, but a fire season that used to span the late summer and early fall is now year-round. That means bigger risks and higher costs for people like Amy Quinlan, who makes the backcountry her home.
So we kind of, during the dry season, have to kind of get up during the night and go outside and check and see if there's anything. So paying attention to what's happening. It's always kind of in the back of your mind.
This mindset is the new normal, says David Victor, a UC San Diego professor and an expert on climate change policy.
The protective measures we take to protect structures, houses in the middle of the forest, communities that have been burned, protect them against future fires. That might involve simple things like much bigger fire breaks. It might involve much more active identification of fires early on. And then next thing you know, you're in effect managing the entire, at least woody ecosystem because of your concerns about fire.
When Pine Valley resident Major Robert Langston signed up for California's Army National Guard, he knew his duties would include dealing with the impacts of fire. He didn't know it would be almost his entire job. Men and women with the Guard are not only deployed to manage evacuations during wildfires, they're now fighting fires and building fire breaks.
Our level of support has been increasing. We're providing more support to especially wildland fires. So from a firefighting perspective, I mean, for whatever reason, fires are getting more and more intense.
San Diego County's climate change impacts don't end at the forest's edge. They're also felt up and down the coast. Carlsbad's Aqua Farm is a small hatchery that's been selling oysters and mussels to restaurants for 50 years. Production manager Matt Stenke says acidification caused by warming oceans devastated the industry a decade ago.
When ocean acidification hit the Pacific Northwest, they were reporting a 90 to 95% failure in their normal production. And you ended up with a lot of farmers who had open space to grow things and they were unable to buy seed. And that problem persisted for a few years.
The threat is becoming more dire. Dan Cahan, a researcher with the Scripps Institution of Oceanography, says the warmer water is, in essence, choking off the food supply.
And the warmer the oceans get, the less oxygen it can accommodate, and low oxygen is not good in general for ecosystems.
At the southern edge of the county in Imperial Beach, the urgency is sea level rise. Coastal flooding is something California's beach community has always dealt with, but sea level rise expert Robert Guza says it's getting worse.
Imperial Beach is a great example of a city in between a rock, a hard place, and a vice. On one side is the ocean. On the other side is the Tijuana estuary. To the south is Mexico, and it's a thin strip of land that is surrounded by water. And so it can get flooded and it does flood from both sides.
Guza is worried for IB because the sea level rise is happening while the region suffers from a perpetual shortage of beach sand.
Rising sea level will take a chronic problem, shortage of sand, and see how bad it can get by just flooding the beaches on top of it that are already sand-starved.
Imperial Beach lifeguard captain Robert Stabenow grew up surfing in IB's waves. Now it's his job to protect residents and property when waves wash into city streets.
Climate change, they've been talking about it for the last 5-10 years. You've been hearing more and more about possible climate change and sea level rise, and now we're actually seeing the impacts. It's real.
As these stories unfold, it'll become even more apparent that San Diego is in the grips of a climate crisis. Eric Anderson, KPBS News.